right, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider postgame show. Rick Butler, Ryan Schumpert on the field here in Death Valley after number 8 Tennessee's 40-13 win over number 25 LSU. Ryan, it's going to be really windy during this postgame of ours. I think that some of it might be the Tennessee fans that are still shouting across the city back and forth. Man, this was an exciting game. You could tell that the fans in the crowd were absolutely loving everything that was going on, but ultimately, man, a third top 25 win for the Tennessee Volunteers. What are your thoughts?
I mean, opening play of the game, Tennessee kind of kicks short to the sideline. LSU muffs the kick. I believe it was Will Albright who jumped right on it, maybe off on that, but that just set the tone for the game. It was all Tennessee from play number 1. Took them 5 plays to score right after that. And really the only part of the game you felt like maybe things was slipping from Tennessee. Chase McGrath misses a 50-yard field goal right here. LSU with a chance down 20-7 to get some points before half. They riskily go for it on 4th down around midfield. Tennessee stops them, hits a field goal, opens the second half of the touchdown drive. From there, it felt like the game was over. And the only little bit of momentum LSU had in that game was very brief as Tennessee really rolled on the Bayou.
Yeah, it absolutely did. And, you know, really for Tennessee, this was a great 3-phase win.
It was.
I think you look at Tennessee's offense and just the ability to once again put up 40 points on a top 25 SEC defense. You look at Tennessee's special teams, Ryan, you mentioned it from the top. Not only did Chase McGrath hit a couple of key field goals right there, but they also started the game in the best possible way that they could have in getting that turnover, giving the ball back over to the offense. In fact, I think the offense's first 2 drives of the game came kind of within right around that red zone territory. And then last but not least, you go to Tennessee's defense. Ryan, at one point in the third quarter, and I'm sorry to everybody, I don't have these exact stats here with me. At one point during the third quarter, maybe as it was getting close to the fourth quarter, Tennessee had 5 sacks and 7 tackles for loss. At the exact same point, LSU had 0 sacks and 1 tackle for loss. You could really tell that Tennessee was just very relentless in getting to the quarterback today. They wanted to put pressure on Jaden Daniels. And Ryan, I got to give you credit on this one. You looked at me and you told me this about halfway through. You said, you know, it really feels like on these sacks, it's not just one guy who's beating his man and getting to the quarterback.
Yeah.
It really felt like a swarm every time Tennessee got to the quarterback. I was really impressed with all 3 phases of Tennessee's game today. They came out and looked like a complete top 10 team.
They did. I mean, you kind of mentioned them having a good field position, but the D. Williams punt return was what set it up there on the second. Yeah, the first play on the field, and not only in the season at Tennessee, in SEC level football. So that was a big time play, and you're right. And a day where Tennessee dominated, I think the defense is the biggest story. And maybe not even just the defense, but Tennessee dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I think LSU ended up running for around 55 yards and close to 30 carries. They couldn't get anything going in the ground game. Tennessee made an LSU passing attack that hasn't been very good this season. They made them one-dimensional leading on that passing attack, and they still made some plays. But like I think we kind of said in the podcast this week, can Tennessee make them meet in the middle? Where the Florida-Tennessee game, it was a bad pass defense versus a bad passing offense, and Florida's passing offense came to met Tennessee's bad passing defense. Today, they kind of met in the middle, and when you combine that with the fact that LSU could not run the ball, that was huge, and that made it for a winning day for Tennessee's defense. And then on the flip side, Tennessee was able to line up the ball and run the ball right at LSU. That was one thing when I looked at the one thing that worried me about Tennessee's offense today was how much could they run it against this LSU defensive front. They ran it really, really well, including a 8-minute drive as they were trying to milk the clock in the fourth quarter that ended in a field goal that made it a 4-possession game, and it was probably already over, but it was all over at that point.
Yeah, I mean, even to that point, I really felt like you could tell the balance that Tennessee had.
Yeah, they had great balance today.
And I think that, you know, I think that's known, right? I don't think we're breaking any news to anybody that Tennessee wants to run a balanced offense, and that ultimately, I really think that you can tell with this Josh Heupel offense how important it is for the run to set up the pass. But just at whatever point throughout the game, I think you would look up at the scoreboard and you'd see that Tennessee's passing yards and rushing yards were all fairly similar. There were times where they'd get a big chunk on each, but really just the ability to show that balance throughout the game in what was a dominating win as well. Tennessee could have crumbled with play calling, but they kept it traditional, they kept it to their own strengths, and they did that. One thing I want to mention as well, just continuing to talk about the offense, Hendon Hooker's throw, which landed right here in this purple end zone in the hands of Jalen Hyatt. It was about a 50-yard, just absolute bomb to the end zone. It was a remarkable throw, one of his better throws of the entire season. So I think you really look at a couple of highlights for this game, you put them together, you get ready for next week as well. Man, there's a lot of energy around this Tennessee football program right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And we talked about Cedric Tillman being out. What does that look like replacing him? And last week, Ramel Keaton did a lot. And not to say Jalen Hyatt and Brew McCoy didn't do a lot 2 weeks ago, I guess, against Florida. But Brew McCoy and Jalen Hyatt both had massive days. Brew McCoy, I think, was right around 150 yards. Jalen Hyatt had the 2 touchdowns, including an ankle breaker to open the second half. And really, at that point, it felt like Tennessee had taken control of the game. So those 2 guys had a big game, and you got to give a lot of credit to Tennessee's offensive line. It continues to play well. Gerald Mincy out today. We saw Jeremiah Crawford and Dane Davis do a pretty good job stepping in and stepping up for them. And one thing I would just note, it's kind of a macro point, not in this game. Last year, Tennessee struggled to run the ball in 3rd and short yardage situations. When other teams said, hey, we're going to come out, we need to stop the run right here, Tennessee struggled. They've been really good there this year. That continued today. A couple 3rd and short runs, a 4th down run, I believe, on maybe Tennessee's last scoring drive as well. So Tennessee really good running the ball when LSU knew that they were going to run it, and that's, I think, maybe one of the biggest differences between Tennessee's offense this season and last season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of those things, and Jabari Small talked about it during the post game. Jalen Hyatt talked about it during the post game. Just the confidence, the belief in one another. I think that has done dividends for this team. Just the ability to go into one of these big time games, go into Death Valley, right? One of the hardest places to play in the country, if not just the SEC, and really be able to. Somebody asked this question. They said, what does it feel like to be able to come into this game, not be able to play perfect or anything, but still have the confidence that you're going to get a win? And they said that's really good, but ultimately, they're not hanging their hat on anything in the first 6 weeks of the season so far. They got bigger goals. A lot of questions during the postgame were kind of directed towards the Alabama game next week, so that's certainly going to be exciting. But any kind of final takeaways on the game?
Just what a complete performance was from Tennessee, and we hit it at the beginning. Offense, defense, special teams. Tennessee was really, really good. I thought this was an even more impressive performance by the defense than it was at Pittsburgh. Maybe it didn't matter quite as much as it did in that Pittsburgh game, but I thought this was really a statement from them, and begin the hype. Alabama comes to town next week. It'll be another rowdy crowd and a big week in Knoxville.
Yeah, you can go and find it on the Twitter. I found some rambunctious fans who are in the crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
We're already starting the We Want Bama chant. So go find it on Twitter. Hey, you can find all of our content and coverage over on Twitter at Rocky Top Insider. It'll be right there. Otherwise, we will see you back for the RTI Instant Reaction podcast. That's coming up in just a couple hours. Otherwise, man, we got a big game to get to next week. Stay locked into Rocky Top Insider for all of your Tennessee news, notes, and coverage. For Ryan Schumpert, I'm Rick Butler. This has been the RTI Instant Reaction.
Man, your backpack did lay